All set.
All set?
Yep, we are all set. We are live.
All right. Thank you. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending the webinar this evening. I'm Mike Cummings, Superintendent of Schools, Fairfield Public Schools. I want to apologize for the delay. We had problems with the WebEx application setting up a chat feature. So since this is a question and answer period, we certainly need the ability to get your questions back. So that Marco today, put together a change in that, and now we've got the ability to get your questions, and we'll work as much as possible over the next hour to answer those. We're going to start though with some basic explanation, some review of the change in the elementary cohort, which will be getting to take place on the 19th of January. We're also going to have some visual support. We're going to give you some insight into how it works for an elementary student to be a remote learner in one of our elementary classrooms. And we do want to spend the majority of our time in the next hour answering your questions. So just real quickly, I want to introduce some of the staff who are with us tonight. First, I want to welcome our elementary principal team. I appreciate their being in attendance tonight. While we're not going to be addressing specific building level questions this evening, their presence here tonight speaks to, one, their commitment to our students and staff, but also to having a better understanding of what questions might be out in their own communities in which we can further address in the weeks ahead. Secondly, I want to thank members of our executive director and central office team. Colleen Deasy, our executive director of human resources and legal services, is going to serve as the moderator this evening. Dr. Zakia Parrish is our executive director of operations and processes. Dr. James Havachancik, our executive director of instruction, curriculum, and assessment. Mr. Rob Mancusi, our executive director of special education and special programs. And finally, Ms. Andrea Clark, our director of communications. Each of them will have an opportunity tonight to perhaps answer some of the questions you might have. So let's start with a brief review of the PowerPoint. We've edited down, Ms. Clark edited down the presentation that was given to the board to focus specifically on the elementary presentation, and we're going to start with that tonight. Give me 1 second, I'll just bring up my copy. Okay. So specifically to the first part of this, one of the things that we were faced with as a challenge over the first few months is the issue of making changes from the fixed model, which we essentially began the year with back in the summer, and based on that point on the state guidance that was given to us. I won't go back over that history, but essentially it was these 3 different learning models that we had to create in response to the state guidance that was provided this summer. What we've stayed focused on over the last few weeks is developing a model that is more in line with updated state guidance and providing flexibility between the learning models. And so very briefly, the changes that we're going to talk about enable that flexibility to begin to happen as we move forward over the next month or so. And really, quite honestly, through the rest of the year. But what doesn't change is really our commitment to maintaining health and safety standards throughout the district, ensuring the social mitigation practices we are vigilant around those and we uphold those. So one of the things that we're working to do is, you're jumping ahead of me in the slides. Hold on 1 second.
Sure.
One of the things we're working to do is we're working to increase our student and teacher contact time. We want to be able to do that more quickly. We want to continue to improve student engagement and remote learning capabilities. And we want to provide ongoing professional learning and support. One of the things that we certainly have learned from our middle school and high school work over the past few months, and that other districts have shared with us as well, is the challenges that this level of instruction poses for our staff to do it well. And so that we know that we have to provide our staff with collaborative planning time and more building level support in order to produce the best instruction for our kids. Just a real brief slide here on how we're addressing the social mitigation strategies. As you know, when we go back to full in person, we're going to have more students in the classroom. So we need to ramp up the level of mitigation strategies that we currently have. We have to make sure that, again, we're vigilant in their use. And we're going to provide an additional mitigation strategy, which is the desktop barrier that you see pictured here. Although the desktop barrier your children get will have clear sides. These are still covered in the protective blue fabric. And so that will be one way, a primary way that we're going to be able to keep student safety, staff safety foremost in our planning. Challenges. So in grades K through 5, our in-person instructional time will begin on January 19th. That's a Tuesday. The extended day schedule, which you can talk about more in the question and answer. In-person instruction will be 8:55 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then live remote will be 2 p.m. to 3:40 p.m. the end of the day. We'll be including in the schedule snack breaks and grab-and-go lunch will still be available. And we'll talk about the cohorts on the next slide, I think. So again, our plan, and this is important for your own planning at home, our plan is that all 5 cohorts were going to be returned to school on Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. When it says here that cohort percentages may be adjusted based on the health data, one of the things we don't know at this point, and really one of the only things we don't know at this point, is where the state may be in terms of the health data, but also any decisions that the governor makes in response to that health data. Our plan is, again, to return all 5 cohorts on each of the days of the week. And I've been asked, repeatedly, for the past few months about the health metrics. It's important to remember and restate this. There is no single health metric that signals red stop, green go, or yellow be cautious. It really is a suite of information that we have to take into account, including the positivity rate through the town, but also what we understand and have learned from other elementary schools, how transmission is or is not occurring in those schools, and what it takes to keep students safe. And it's really important to remember this, that students who attend school, elementary students who are attending school full-time, are doing that very successfully in our region, in our area, despite these high positivity numbers. So it's the mitigation strategies that people are employing are working to keep the people in school safe. And when incidences happen in schools, quite honestly, most of those incidents are happening because people break the mitigation strategies. People come to school sick, and that's really the primary cause of issues within the schools. K-5 students can opt, if parents are more comfortable, K-5 students can opt for full remote into their current classrooms. We're asking parents to notify their child's school by this weekend. And we're going to ask, and then this is once that decision is made, you have the ability to reverse that decision at any point going forward. We're only asking that it may take up to 3 days to move a student from full remote to back in person in their current class. That just may be a 3-day window that we may need to make that happen. For now, students in the RLA are going to remain in the RLA, and that's something we'll look at again once we get past this January period. I won't get into the elementary schedule. You can reference this back if there's interest later on in the question and answer. And again, we provided the cohort rotation for everybody, but this is really a fallback measure. And again, we can go over this in more detail if people wish. But our goal remains all students in school, all students fully attending for those hours between 8:55 and 1 p.m. So before we get to questions, Ms. Clark had put together a short video on using with the great help of one of our elementary school teachers and some of her students, and Ms. Farrell, the principal of Holland Hill, and if she could speak to that briefly, and then we'll take questions and answers and provide answers.
Mike, did you want to go over the elementary schedule first before we did that?
No, let's wait. Let's do the presentation, your presentation, then we can go over the schedule, and maybe Dr. Zanavichancik will best be able to speak to that.
Okay. Before I start the video, I had the opportunity to remote into one of our kindergarten classes at Holland Hill last week and record it using the Google Meet recording. There were 2 students who were currently in quarantine who were remoting in along with me. And, you know, taking an entire afternoon cohort and boiling it down to a couple of minutes so that you get some sense of the experience is obviously difficult. One of the things that you're not going to see in the video because of the way that Google Meet records is that our teachers have 2 devices in the room that they're using at all times. So in addition to the device that's used to show the smart board and the lesson that the kids are doing, there's a second device, which is what really allows for the interaction. So the teacher's walking around with this device. She is talking directly to the kids at home. She's sharing with the students in the room what the kids who are at home are doing, and there is interaction between the students in the classroom and the children at home. And it's really quite amazing to see. You'll get a little bit of a feel for it as they go through their morning meeting and they're doing greetings, and the kids in the room are greeting the kids at home, and the kids at home are greeting the kids back in the room. And they're sharing their work back and forth. The kids at home also have the opportunity to see what the students in the room are working on, so that they can make sure that what they're doing is working alongside their classmates. It's very impressive when you have a chance to see it. And I think really what impressed me the most is the amount of planning that needs to go into this kind of teaching. When you look at the lessons that, and again, you'll just see bits and pieces of it, that our kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Ralabay, put together, there's great thought given to how is this going to work for someone at home, as well as how is it working for the students in the classroom. And the fact that she makes it appear seamless to the kids is really a testament to how much thought and planning and work go into it. So I'm going to share this. Give me just a second to get this set up. And let's see if we can.
Are we ready? Let's get our best singing voices ready. As I point under each word. These singing voices were beautiful today. Take a look at our morning message. Up here we have our character, the academic word of the day. Character. The word is character. And we know in a story, the character is who is in the story. Let's take a look at our date. And Maddie, you should be able to see where I highlight, okay, hon? What month? What number is it? Aria? Wow. This is the last month of the year because there's 12 months in the year. What month is your birthday in? And that's what we're going to share today. Give me a thumbs up if you know what month your birthday is. Maybe it's December. Maybe it's March. We give double jazz hands today to Lucy. Hi, Lucy.
Hi.
My birthday is in March. And Lucy, you can say hi to Ellie. Ellie, right there, honey. You can do double jazz hands to Ellie. And Lucy, when's your birthday?
My birthday's in the winter.
In the winter. Lucy, is your birthday in February?
Yeah.
Yes, very good. And Ellie, you can say hi to Maddie with double jazz hands. Jazz hands. And Maddie, you're going to give double jazz hands to Aria. Can you see her?
Hi, Ari. My birthday is in April.
Very nice. Let's think about the kind of weather where we can see with our eyes by looking out the window.
Or something doesn't work right.
I can see what's going on in the sky. Snowing. Snow out there. Or do you need your binoculars? Still don't see snow. I see sunny as well. Do we see sunny?
Yeah.
Yes. Sunny, Lucy, what's the weather where you are?
Sunny.
Sunny at Lucy's house. Maddie, how about you?
Sunny.
Sunny, let's fill up our sunny column. Your job from your sheet is to find all the letters that are in your name using your magnifying glass. Raise your hand if you remember playing snap words Simon says with Miss Sarah during your word work at home. Simon says write the word look, but write it all in uppercase letters. All uppercase letters. This is going to be look. We're not finished either. Maddie, can I see your paper?
Yeah.
Whoa. We're going to look for books and has pattern, and I will help you find them. And then I'm going to come around and practice letters and sounds with you and position. And now it's time to head outside for our math break. All right, Lucy and Maddie, we'll see you in a few minutes.
In 5 minutes, you only get a glimpse of what remote learning looks like for our elementary students. Importantly, you can see that even our youngest learners are able to manage a Google Meet. While this video contains clips from the Google Meet recording, teachers actually use 2 devices simultaneously in the classroom. That allows students at home to see what's happening in the room as well as on the smartboard, and it provides face-to-face live interaction with the teacher. Finally, it is the classroom teacher who makes live remote learning successful. From planning lessons that work both in class and at home to ensuring student interaction, engagement, and participation, our teachers' passion and commitment to their students is what makes this work. Thank you to Mrs. RLA for inviting us in and sharing her class with us.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Clark. Thank you to Ms. Ralabate and to her class, and again to Ms. Farrell for helping to organize that. I want to make sure that before we go to the next segment, I'm going to have Dr. Sands have a chance to speak to the elementary schedule, but I just want to remind people that if you have questions, please place them in the chat. And Ms. DC, we want to make sure that she's working tonight, so she'll start to go through the questions and get them out to the appropriate person for responses. So if we could put up the schedule again, that's possible, and then Dr. Zavachenzik, if you could just speak to it.
Sure, thank you, and thanks for joining us today. I'm James Zavachenzik, Executive Director of Instruct Curriculum, and I just want to take a few moments to talk about the revisions or the new schedule that will be implemented on January 19th across all of our schools. Particularly, this schedule allows us to move in and out of different models, but more importantly, it increases our instructional time both throughout the day and remotely add those activities that could be done more independently or with the teacher. Currently, we have a 60-minute reading block, a reading and writing block, ELA block for our AM and PM cohorts. At this point, we're going to go back to our more traditional school year where we'll have a 60-minute reading block a 50-minute writing block, followed by a 50-minute math, and then a science, social studies, or health block as well. That will happen in the in-person day when students are in the building with their teacher. Science, social studies, and health happen on a rotation basis. That's why they're all paired together there. Currently, the elementary schools are in a science unit at this point. They do health about once a week, but they'll rotate in and out throughout the year between science and social studies. If you're looking at the screen, you'll notice in the right-hand column, there's some time frames there. Those time frames are meant to show what it would look like for both synchronous and asynchronous or independent work, and also station rotations for students who may be at home as well as in school. So for example, if you're looking at the reading block, it's a 60-minute total time of instruction. In general, there's a 10 to 15-minute mini lesson that's given directly to students in the building, as well as to students who would be live streaming into the classroom if they choose to go remote or are placed in remote. And then the teacher will have about 50 minutes, 45 to 50 minutes for students to do both independent work, to meet with the teacher one-to-one, or to meet with the teacher in a very small group as well. And that works for the writing and math block in addition. To the left, you'll notice, or you might be asking, that this is a day from 8:55 to 1 o'clock, which seems like it has no breaks or no downtime. To the left, you'll notice that there will be in each elementary schedule a snack break, a mask break as needed, as well as a recess period that will be staggered throughout the day, both with grade levels and different pairs in the building. We have allowed from 1 to 2 o'clock to have a transition time for both students to be picked up by families or take our buses home. And then the rest of the day will become remote. And in that remote portion of the day, we're going to keep our specials, and those include things like art, music, and physical education, Spanish, and library media studies, remotely for 30 minutes synchronously. So your child would sign into the Meet as they currently do throughout their day at one of the 30-minute blocks between anywhere from 2 o'clock till 3:40, and they'll work with their teacher there. Students should also expect to have extension activities in both reading, writing, and math that will obviously link to the regular in-person school day, and the expectation should be about 35 minutes of extension activities. And then there's one other synchronous time with the actual classroom teacher for both word work and number corner. And these will also be integrated throughout the day, and then go into the remote portion of the day, again, synchronously on a Google Live Meet. The school day will end at 3:40, and this would not, the rotation would not change from Monday through Friday at this point. The one thing that would change in a rotation is the specials. They'll have a different one each day. And I should note that that it says there if there are 2 specials, and what that means is sometimes, most often, for example, in art, students take 2 art classes in a 6-day rotation. So if that is since that is the case, they will have one of those art periods synchronously and one of those art periods asynchronously, meaning the art teacher or the music teacher will post a lesson for them to do on their own independently and submit either work or samples to them through the Google Classroom. So that is our new schedule. Again, it maximizes our instructional time throughout the day in many of our core areas like reading, writing, and math, as well as that additional block of science and social studies, which many times supports our math and reading blocks as well. So thank you, Mr. Cummings, for letting me present that.
Well, thank you for doing that. So Ms. Deci, can you have, I know you have questions ready, so if you could start the video, please.
Thank you. So, Dr. Zavichansik, while you have the mic, I will keep you in the hot seat. While we're talking about the schedule, can you talk a little bit about the RLA schedule and how and why that changed? I think there are some people wondering why the RLA is changing and what that means for their schedule as well.
Sure. So I'll start with the conversation, and then Ms. Roxby, if there's any additional details that I've missed, feel free to jump in at the end. Currently, the RLA schedule allows for asynchronous specials at the end of the day. So again, our music and our art and our PE teachers and so forth are tape recording themselves. They're placing lessons on the RLA's Google Classrooms. They are then getting work back from students and responding with feedback. That is different currently than what students who are in person are receiving, which is a synchronous lesson throughout the day. So we have been able to now give all of our students, regardless of if they've chosen or if their family has chosen RLA versus in-person lessons, that they will have a special throughout the day. The in-person, or in the building, I should say, specials happen from 2 to 3:40. RLA specials would happen throughout the school day from the 9 o'clock start through the end of the school day. They'll be integrated on a staggered level. Other than that, we've brought the schedules more in line between in-person and RLA in terms of timeframes of reading, writing, math, and social studies, in Number Corner and so forth. There are still some remote portions of the day for RLA in terms of Number Corner and in some other areas. And Ms. Roxby, I'm not sure if I've missed anything in terms of your planning there that you want to add.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Because we don't have the transportation issues in RLA, our period in between 1 and 2 o'clock is shortened to 1 to 1:30, and we have moved our science and social studies to the afternoon from 1:30 to 2, and then from 2 to 2:40 we will have our synchronous number corners and word work, and then in the afternoon, because our children have already had their specials, we will continue to have office hours for students in the afternoon for RLA teachers. The only thing different for all of you is that our schedule, of course, will be unique for each teacher based on their special schedule. So, we don't have a mock-up of it, what it will look like, because everyone will be a little bit different. So your classroom teachers will provide you with their schedule before the break.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, James, Dr. Zavajancic, there's a great number of questions about the specifics of schedules, and I think we've kind of said people are going to get those before the break. But generally, how is it going to work if is the student going to be assigned 2 different specials in one afternoon? Is the schedule going to be designed in a way to make that accessible for parents? Can you walk us through what that will look like for families?
Sure. So it sounds like we're talking mostly about the remote portion of the day, so I'll focus on that. Once students get home, we've allowed that hour between 1 and 2 for transportation and lunch and any other activities that you might be able to fit in there. And then from 2 to 3:40 would be specials, as well as the synchronous number corner, synchronous meaning live with the classroom teacher, number corner, and word work. So they should expect 1 special each day for 30 minutes, as well as 1 synchronous session in the afternoon with a classroom teacher for number corner work to 30 minutes in between or after that. That is obviously designed for break times and movement breaks and anything else.
Thank you. I'll pass the mic now to Dr. Parrish. We have a couple of technology-related questions. So, Dr. Parrish, can you tell us what are the devices, what equipment have the teachers been given in the classrooms in order to facilitate this change?
Zakia Parrish, Executive Director of Operations and Processes. So teachers have been provided with the document camera that allows the students at home as well as those in the classroom to see what they have in front of them, whether it be something they're writing or something that they're reading from. They also have a desktop, which, you know, is a stationary device, but they've also been provided with a laptop. And the laptop enables them to be able to navigate around the room and to assist groups of students within the classroom, while at the same time engaging those students that are remoting into the classroom. So those are the two computer devices that teachers have been provided, in addition to, like I mentioned, the document camera, which also has a microphone on it that allows the students at home to hear what they're saying in the classroom and vice versa.
Thank you. The other question around technology was, are students going to be required to bring their Chromebooks to and from school every day?
So I don't believe that that's something that they've incorporated into the course of the day. I don't know if Dr. Zavajancic would be better suited to answer that question in reference to, the breakdown of the day.
Sure, yeah, we do not require it, and we would not be requiring students to bring technology with them.
Great. Mr. Cummings, I have some overview questions for you. I think the first one that I'm seeing as a recurring theme in the comments is kind of a how did we get here question, which is, why can't we stay in the current hybrid model? Why was the decision made to move away from that towards the new model in the new year?
Okay, great question. The primary reason was we wanted to increase student-teacher contact time. We think that the current hybrid model has been very successful. It's served us well over the past 4 months. But as we get into the second half of the year, and with some hope of some sense of optimism for as we pass through the second wave, we do want to increase student-teacher contact time. We want to increase student time with their peers. And we feel that the social emotional benefits of that, as well as the educational benefits, justify the change in the cohort model.
Thank you. What will the model be from January 4th to January 19th?
The model from January 4th to January 19th will be the current model.
And I don't know if you're the best person to answer this, or if you want to pass it off, but I'll hand it to you first. Okay. Will before and after care be offered for families at buildings that currently are offering it now? Is that going to continue?
Yes, I think Dr. Parrish has been working on that, and she's best prepared to answer that question.
Yes, so before and after care will still continue. It will have the same restrictions that it currently has, as those restrictions have not been changed by the state, but those before and after care programs will continue to run. Additionally, we have been in contact with Wakeman as well as the YMCA to let them know about the schedule changes so that they can make adjustments to their after school care accordingly. And so they've been in communication with our executive director that handles transportation so that those things can be set up for those families that have been working with Wakeman thus far around after school care.
Thank you. So I have a follow-up transportation question for you, if you know this one. Are bus routes and numbers going to change for students?
I don't believe so. I know all the bus routes have been reestablished, but to my knowledge, they haven't been changed. I think it's just a matter of combining the cohorts so that when we launched January 19th, that those that would have been an A or B cohort would all be on the same bus. So there might be some minor adjustments, but those would show up in Infinite Campus.
I will add, I think that for the most part, the bus routes are going to remain stable, but obviously pickup times are going to change, and the route will be different. Well, the timing of the route will be different. As Dr. Parrish said, those changes will be updated in Infinite Campus soon.
Thank you. Mr. Cummings, I will go back to you for this next question, which is trying to capture what a few different people are asking in the chat. Essentially, there's a concern with the increased number of students in an elementary classroom. There's a concern about if social distancing or safe distancing will be able to be maintained, especially during snack time. And there's a concern about, is there a different option other than the 60 to 80%? Would the current hybrid schedule be considered as an option instead? I think you started to answer that, but perhaps more explicitly speaking
Sure.
to the safety concerns.
No, after that, well, the Friday before January 19th, the current hybrid schedule is going to go away. We do believe, and again, I want to point out that, you know, we've been criticized for this, but Fairfield is not coming to this table relatively late in terms of bringing students, elementary students, back into school full time. A number of districts, a number of our neighbors have been doing it for some time. They've done it quite successfully. We've watched to see how they've done it. We've watched to see how they've done that successfully, and we're learning from that. We've learned from that. So while the distance between desks is going to be shorter, what they've done is they've put up these barriers to decrease or to increase the mitigation issues. They manage snacks in a way that minimizes student contact time, students' time without masks. These are all practices that are happening in other districts. And again, how they've done this, and they've done this well, we're going to bring those practices into Fairfield as we move forward. So the risk of in-school transmission is very, very low. So we want to, you know, in recognition of that, we need to bring students back and to get the benefits of them being back in school more often.
Thank you. Will there be an opportunity for movement from the RLA into the elementary school this year? And if so, what will that mean for any possible places where students returning where an elementary section was collapsed?
That's something we're going to have to look at after we get through this next phase of changes in January. So we're going to just have to look at it. I mean, I will say that we want to be able to make that possibility happen, but the earliest it would take place would be in February.
And when will the new cohort assignments go out to families?
Dr. Zavachansik, do you have that date? I apologize.
I don't have a particular date right now. They are currently being placed into Infinite Campus, and we would have to create a way to send those out to particular families like we did in August, where it lists A or B. It would list A1, A2, B1, B2, or C1 at this point, but I don't have a particular date right now of when that will be going out.
Thank you. Dr. Zavachansik, can you talk to us a little bit about what recess is going to look like? Is it going to be outdoors?
So recess in an elementary school sometimes changes by the day. So obviously, if weather is great and not inclement, recess can most certainly happen outdoors. It can happen on the playgrounds. I know some schools have fields and blacktop areas and basketball courts and so forth. So none of those are off limits. Principals are also working because every building sort of has a different layout and setup and what areas they can use. They're also working with other indoor areas that can be established as recess areas that are larger in nature. But obviously there are times when we can't go outside or we can't use certain areas, and recess doesn't look like we're thinking of it with kids running around and playing in fields, and they are more stationary in a classroom doing more indoor activities. But we hope to get them outdoors and into the areas playing as much as possible.
Thank you. And Mr. Mancusi, I didn't forget about you, and neither did your fans in the chat. So can you talk to us about what is this change going to mean for students who have IEPs, and is there a chance for them to have a separate webinar, or what is communication going to look like for them is the concern at this point.
Good evening, everybody. Rob Mancusi, Executive Director, Special Education and Special Programs. What this is going to mean for our students with disabilities, it's going to offer them 7.5 additional hours of live in-person services in school, and our students with disabilities are going to remain in school for 5 days, no matter what cohort they are assigned to. So The idea is, and the hope is, to provide them as many of their services in person live as possible within those 5 days. And I'd be happy to do a webinar, and I can touch base with SEPTA tomorrow about setting that up.
Thank you. And I think there's some questions in here now that we have already answered. We're getting to that point. But one that we haven't spoken to directly yet is, why are we not going back full time? In looking at that as an option, why has that been ruled out as the next step?
I don't know. I cut out for a minute, so I don't know if you were directing.
Oh, sorry, it might have been me. So this one's to Mike. Why are we not going back full time, and why has that been ruled out as the next step?
The concern is around the logistics around lunch. The length of the time for lunch, 30 minutes without a mask break, excuse me, without a mask. The ability to provide social distancing for that. We at this point are more comfortable with the 6-foot distancing for that length of time without a mask. The ability to, so that presents a logistical issue for the schools to work on. Not all of our schools have sufficient space to provide lunch for students in that manner with those conditions. It requires a number of supervisory staff to oversee that, to monitor it, to make sure that students are engaging in safe practices. So that presents a different challenge for us. We do not have right now staffing sufficient to that need. So those are really all the issues that we're facing. I think that that in time, that may be, some of these things may become less of a concern. But right now, that remains our greatest concern: the ability to safely monitor students during that period for lunch. And it presents quite a logistical challenge to each of our to our schools. Some of them more than others. As I think or you may or may not be aware, when we moved to reduce the number of desks or increase the number of the space between desks in many of our classrooms, a lot of classroom furniture was moved out of the classrooms and into common spaces like the APRs and the gyms, and we did that so the teachers could still continue to have access to the materials. That need still exists, and so those spaces aren't available for the other uses that we might for another use like lunch, which we might want.
Thank you. Dr. Zavichansik, there's a question around the cohort changes. And is there a chance that for the students who've been in hybrid this year, are they possibly going to have a different teacher after January 19th?
So no. So the quick answer to that is no. The teachers are remaining the same at this point. So we're currently in an AM and PM cohort for the most part in the morning or afternoon. The morning and the afternoon kids would be brought together as one group with their current classroom teacher at this point.
Thank you. Mike, there are several people in the comments who don't feel like the question around the 60% occupancy under this plan, they feel that it's a lesser educational model than the current hybrid system. And so they'd like some context around why the choice was made to go to this plan, specifically if the 60% hybrid has to go into effect.
Well, even at 60%, well, I would say this. I wouldn't disagree with that. I think we put it in place as a stopgap measure if the need to reduce the number of students in a classroom was essentially imposed upon us. But even at 60%, the ability to go to 80% and 100 is going to be able to happen more quickly in this model than it does under the current model. So the overall decision to switch to this model is based on increasing student-teacher contact time, but also be able to more rapidly transition from a lesser percentage to a full 100%. Otherwise, if we stayed in the current model, we're at 50-50. We lack that flexibility.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions at this point. So a lot of the questions that are in here are school specific or parent specific. So we will have a copy of the chat. And we'll be able to, assuming that you are not participating under an alias, we will probably be able to pick them out and address them on a more individualized basis.
And we can certainly provide those questions to the principals as a group so they have an understanding of what specific issues might be occurring at their sites. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I guess I would first of all conclude by thanking everybody for participating tonight. We will be providing updates, as Dr. Savichenko said, Dr. Parrish said, there will be updates on the bus routes and the pickup times in Infinite Campus. We'll be providing information on the cohort changes in Infinite Campus. And certainly as we get into after the, I should say after the 1st of January, we'll provide more updates to our elementary parents as we move towards the next date of January 19th.
Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.